Hi, welcome. We are thrilled to have you with us today, and as we share and discuss literacy foundations with families to support early learning development. And this is the first webinar offered through the menu of pre-K literacy support. I am Jessica Fitzgerald, the Early Childhood Coordinator in the Office of Early Learning. And today I have with me Donna Albaugh, who is, I forgot your zone. Are you zone 3, Donna? Zone 3.
Zone 3, Sandhills. Sandhills region.
Sometimes I get my numbers mixed up. And then we have Shawnette with us also. She is one of our super fabulous letters facilitators in the Office of Early Learning. So she's bringing her knowledge with some early literacy information as well. So we are happy to have you here with us. Our agenda today will cover principles of effective family engagement, some oral language, phonological awareness, and print knowledge. And of course, all of these are within the context of that family engagement. Resources will be shared throughout, and we'll conclude with the closing activity. And today's session is a combination of information sharing and some engagement through some small group conversation. If you've been with us before, you know that in the Office of Early Learning, we often begin our meetings or in-person sessions, virtual sessions with a welcoming inclusion. And that is a practice that comes from the work of CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. So a welcoming inclusion brings us together with around a topic of discussion and brings us together as a group of learners. So for today, we would like for you to grab a piece of paper. It can be a scrap piece of paper, sticky note, whatever you have nearby, and a pen or pencil. Grab one too. And we're going to take about 30 seconds to draw what family means to you. So what family means to you personally. All right, hopefully you were able to capture something quickly. This is my very, very rough sketch of stick people, but I have my little immediate family and then our lines out, because we always talk about in our family, our little family, and our big family is how my kids refer to our family members. So just wanted to share that. If anybody else wants to hold theirs up, you don't have to share it, but you can hold yours up if you'd like to. So if we were to share our drawings with one another, like if we were in person, it's unlikely that our drawings would look the same. And recognizing this uniqueness is important when working with families and sharing information with them. So experiences and specific content knowledge may vary greatly, yet we can all come together and work together for the child's benefit. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So we'll start by setting the groundwork for family engagement. So during a review of some research on family engagement, NAEYC and the Pre-K Now found that program's successful family engagement practices encompass 6 principles. And one of those 6 principles is providing activities for the home and in the community. And of course, those activities are related to learning. So first, take a moment to read these 2 sentences on the slide while making note of words and phrases that stand out to you about the family engagement in those programs. Right. We invite you to share some of those in the chat if there are words and phrases that stand out to you for others to see as well. Learning at home, it doesn't end with the four walls of our classrooms. Yeah. Community, home and community. Yeah, not just one or the other. Yep, beyond the program. Yep. Enhancing child's learning. Absolutely. All right, thank you for sharing some of those. So now we're going to think about family engagement with a lens of literacy. So when we look at family engagement activities, we want to look at these 3 literacy foundations, and these are described in Letters for Early Childhood Educators. We have oral language, phonological processing or phonological awareness, and then print knowledge. For our structure today, we're going to follow this what, why, how. The what will provide a brief description, a brief definition. The why is going to tell us, of course, why it's important. And then the how will show us some ways that we can encourage families to work with children and engage with them in order to support that skill or that foundational area. So let's start with oral language. Okay, what is it? Oral language, well, first of all, the definitions we're using today are from readingrockets.org. So we'll have that down in the bottom right-hand corner for the definition or for the slides that we're using their definitions on. So oral language includes both expressive and receptive language. So that's speaking and listening to understand. And we know that receptive language, understanding what we hear, develops prior to expressive language and using that language ourselves as far as children go. So why? Research tells us that better oral language skills lead to an easier time learning how to read. And unfortunately, children who have difficulties with listening to speak also have difficulties with learning to read and write. So what at-home activities can be shared to create a learning environment beyond the classroom and relate to oral language development? Let's take a look. What is receptive language? So to unpack the how of oral language, we're going to share several videos because the listening to them and watching the examples is often helpful. Other sections that we unpack, there'll be more visuals and resources, but this one is great for parents to be able to see and watch and listen. So as mentioned on the previous slide, receptive language or that listening develops prior to the expressive language. And one way families and caregivers can support a child's receptive language development is by using self-talk and parallel talk. So let's listen to this video.
Self-talk is simply talking about what you are doing. Think of it as providing narration for your own actions, similar to what you might see on a cooking show. Here's an example of self-talk in action. Vroom, vroom! Push the truck. I'll make it go fast. Oops, too fast. With self-talk, I talked about what I was doing. Parallel talk is talking about what your child is doing. Think of it as providing a play-by-play of what you see, just like a sportscaster. Here's an example of parallel talk in action. Vroom, vroom! Whoa, you pushed the truck. You got it! With parallel talk, I talked about what my child was doing.
Okay, so that's receptive and listening to them in that way. And then we also know that we can use strategies to support that expressive language. And some of these are very simple for once they're aware, for families and parents to incorporate in daily activities in their homes and in the community as well. So as those receptive skills develop, then it's expressive language, and they can, and families can support this by recasting and expanding. So we'll go ahead and continue our video.
Expanding means taking what your child has communicated and adding on a little more information. Expansion can be used to add information to any form of communication. If your child points to a dog, you can say, "Dog." By labeling the dog, you've added a little more information. If your child points to a dog and says, "Dog," you can expand their word by saying, "Look at that big dog." If your child says, "Doggy, run," you can expand their short sentence by saying, "The dog runs fast." Recasting means taking something that your child has communicated that might not be quite correct and saying it back the correct way with emphasis on the new information. If your child says, "Me want cookie," you can recast their sentence by saying, "I want a cookie." If your child says, "That dog run really fast," you can recast their sentence by saying, "Yes, that dog ran really fast." If your child says, "Him kicked the ball," you can recast their sentence by saying, "He kicked the ball far." By using expansion and recasting, you can help your child continue to grow their vocabulary, increase their grammatical development, and improve their overall communication skills.
All right, for watching that video, every time I watch it, I think of my own daughter who's in kindergarten right now. The recasting and expand, but not as we expand as well, but we recast all the time because she's still switching those pronouns around. And so we do that a lot, and definitely last year we were. So I can personally say that as a parent and in our family, that was something that's easy to implement, but has definitely been effective for her as well. So you can see that the examples given in these videos are very simple sentences, but we know that these strategies can be used with children as their language skills expand. Okay, so this strategy is tune in, talk more, and take turns. And we know that interactive and child-directed conversations from responsive caregivers are also important and vital to children's language development and learning. So this is a strategy and it's tune in, talk more, and take turns. And this video explains it in a very parent-friendly way, as the families are the intended audience. And I think it's only 1 minute. So we'll take a peek and then see an example of tune in, talk more, and take turns in action.
Since talk and interaction are so important for brain development, how can you make the most out of every moment with your child? Use the 3 T's. Tune in, talk more, take turns. Tune in means be in the moment. Talk more means look for opportunities to talk and interact. Take turns means engage in conversation. When you use all 3 T's at once, you're building the strongest possible brain for your child.
All right, so that's a quick, easy to understand.
Since talk and interaction are so
on the next slide, sorry about that. We have I love this example. It's just such a real life example of walking down the sidewalk and engaging in that conversation.
Look, I see rectangles on the windows. I see those. And then look, you see those things on top of the roof?
Yeah, I see circles.
Yep, exactly. Those are circles. Oh, I think I see a triangle.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't that bush look like a triangle?
Yeah.
It does. This is a triangle, right?
Come on. You like circles more.
You gonna show me more? What you gonna show me?
So then it gives you the examples of how that mom is turning in, she's talking more, and she's taking those turns with her daughter in order to engage in that meaningful conversation. And much like she did, this last video shows a dad conversing with his son, and it shows the difference between just saying cool or neat, which is so tempting to do as an adult, especially when we're doing something else, and how the asking open-ended questions can really support that oral language development.
When it comes to oral language skills, there's one thing you can do to help your child get ahead. Teach them how to tell a story. Making slight shifts in how you respond to things kids say can do the trick. If your kid says,
I saw a dog.
You saw a dog? Tell me about the dog. What was the dog doing?
He went home.
He went home.
instead of saying, oh neat, or even where, try saying, tell me about the dog you saw. What did the dog do next? The goal is to guide your child through the sequence of a story and help them describe what happened in the beginning, middle, and end.
Strive for 5 is a saying and something that you can keep in mind and share with families as far as extending those conversations. And so in engaging in conversations, the number 5 refers to the number of times the conversation goes back and forth, which you all probably know, but just thinking of sharing that information with families. And they might be really surprised how quickly this can happen. Just in less than a minute, 30 seconds can really lead to quite a few exchanges in a conversation. So you can see here, this script can lead to many more exchanges when instead of saying, cool, you may ask a question, a more open-ended question. And now I'm going to turn it over to Shawnette to explain our engagement activity.
I just love those videos. They just warm my heart. All right, guys, so we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 3 minutes. And I want you to engage in some conversations regarding literacy foundations with families, specifically related to oral language. So you guys can discuss past experiences with family engagement related to language and literacy, even strategies that you would like to share with families. Maybe you have some questions, or just maybe want to select your own topic. So we'll spend about 3 minutes in our breakout rooms, and then we'll come back. Just to connect with other early childhood educators as you think about strategies that you want to share with families. So now we're going to move to the next foundational area, which is phonological awareness. Now, phonological awareness is the ability to recognize and manipulate parts of words. So this includes syllables, onset rhyme, and individual sounds. And as we become more familiar with these terms as educators, it's really important to provide a family-friendly definition for families. And providing examples for families is a great way to make the concept more digestible. Okay, so why? Why do children need phonological awareness? Well, our brains aren't pre-wired to translate speech sounds, which is what we hear, into letters, a written symbol. And in order to read and write, we must be aware of individual phonemes to match the sounds to printed letters. We're going to take a moment to unpack the why a little further with findings from research. So children with underdeveloped phonological awareness skills in preschool are some of the poorest readers in later years. So they have trouble learning how to decode the sounds in written words. And when we think about phonological awareness skills in kindergarten children have been identified as one of the best predictors of reading achievement between kindergarten and 2nd grade. And when we talk about analysis tasks, so analysis tasks include later developing manipulation skills. So thinking about deletion, counting, and substitution, these skills have the strongest correlation for literacy development. So we know that strong phonological awareness skills help pave the way for learning to read and write. And children who are better at playing with rhymes, they learn the alphabetic principle, which leads to phonics. And phonological awareness can be developed in children ages 4 and younger, even in our at-risk students, but we know instruction is needed. And it may be more effective to provide phonological awareness instruction in preschool rather than waiting until children are in kindergarten. And we also know that teaching phonological awareness positively impacts speech production, early literacy, reading accuracy, reading comprehension, and spelling. So I just want to give you a moment, take a moment to look at these statements, and I want you to determine which statement resonates with you most. So you can drop it in the chat. Is there a particular statement that resonates with you most? But I also want you to consider how family members may react to these statements. So you can drop it in the chat. 1, 2, 3, or 4, which piece of research resonates with you the most? 2 for me as well. Hard to choose, but I would go for 2 as well. Awesome job, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so you can find table 3.2 on page 101 in your Letters for Early Childhood Educators manual, and it includes the complex phonological awareness skills. Now, you may have some students that begin working on and mastering these skills later in the year. So again, thinking about deletion, addition, and substitution. However, typical early phonological awareness skills at ages 4 through 5 include rhyme and alliteration. And alliteration can act as a transitional skill into phonemic awareness with the isolation of initial sound of a group of words. And basic phonemic awareness skills include blending and segmenting. So remembering that phonemic awareness is a part of the larger category of phonological awareness. Now, as children develop phonological awareness, skills progress from whole words or larger chunks to individual sounds or phonemes. So I want you to take a moment to just kind of reflect on this. How can we as educators promote the development of phonological development in homes and communities? And we actually have a great resource for you. This is Play to Read, and it's free, and it's available for you to share with families. And I think we're going to drop the link to this a little bit later after we go through a couple of activities. Okay. So in line with the linguistic hierarchy, this activity focuses on larger word parts, which are syllables. And so you'll notice the card in the top right corner, it indicates that this activity is easily implemented while shopping. So I want you to take a look at it with me. So it says, count the number of syllables or word parts in an item's name before placing it in the cart or basket. And you'll also notice that each activity includes a may sound like section, just to provide some examples for our families. And so our first example is, we got a pineapple, pineapple. And so you can clap out those word parts, and then you would say, or encourage families to say, pineapple has 3 syllables. Or even milk, milk, milk. How many syllables? And then encourage the child to notice that milk has 1 syllable. Okay, and moving through the linguistic hierarchy, children begin with smaller word parts. And this activity encourages children to produce words with the same first sound or phoneme, which is more challenging than determining if 2 words have the same first sound. So for this activity, it says practice alliteration, words with the same first sound. And you would do that by looking for items in nature with the same first sound. And you'll also notice too, those same may sound like examples, they are provided here as well. So you might say something like, I see roses. What do you see that starts with the R sound? Or you're wearing a jacket and you have a jump rope. Jacket and jump rope start with the same sound. Okay, so again, you have this tiny URL here that you can access this particular resource. So feel free to go through it and bookmark it, or skim a few activities so you have access to that as well. Okay, guys, so we're going to go back into our breakout rooms for roughly 3 minutes. And this time I want you to discuss any past experiences with family engagement related to phonological awareness. So any activities, strategies that you would like to share with families. You might have some additional questions that you might have regarding phonological awareness as well. Or you might just want to discuss your own topics, but we'll spend about 3 minutes and then we'll come back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. So hopefully you had an opportunity to engage in meaningful conversations around phonological awareness. So now I'm going to turn it over to my amazing colleague, Donna, to close us out.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Welcome back. Print knowledge. We're going to talk about our final area, foundational literacy skills, and that is, of course, print knowledge. So once again, we're going to focus on what is that. So as we're thinking about what is print knowledge, thinking about two large components. Those concepts of print. Back in the day, we used to call book print awareness. In my day, back in the old times, some not head shaking. Yeah, I know you are. And alphabet knowledge. So, really helping orient children in the home and the families, and helping families orient themselves to ways that they can support that what, and that is by recognizing print in the environment, helping make that connection with those young learners about the meaning that's carried through that print. And then, print's used for many different purposes and how they experience that print in their writing. Typically, we begin with our names. So alphabet knowledge is the second component of that we're looking at here today. And of course, we know that as letter names and letter sounds. In my long ago history, I was trained as a Montessori educator. And in that, we really focused in alphabet knowledge about those sounds. And the sound was a very critical part of how we started our instruction with 3s and 4s, early learning, just helping them make that sound association, just what they hear. And that's a big piece of that print knowledge as we move through. Once again, we're going to reflect back on that same resource that we talked about a moment ago. When you're thinking about making those connections, play to read with a caregiver. How do you help families think about ways to make that playful connection with those concepts of foundational skills for print knowledge, if you will? So that was a dinner party last night, and a lady at the party had a 20-year-old adult grandson who is autistic and has some significant learning challenges. And she was sharing at the table how she had him make a list. She's like, he always wants to shop. So he comes to my house and wants to, let's go grocery shopping. And she said, he's obviously not literate. He's in a special class, but the shout out to the school continues to support him and allow him to learn those skills. So not only for our early learners, but sometimes for learners that maybe have some challenges. And as a 20-year-old, she expressed it, while he isn't reading or writing, I asked him to make a list because he wanted to go to the store, and she had him take an inventory. I thought it was humorous that she had him inventory her freezer. And she said most things were in the freezer were labeled, but making that same kind of connection with those foundational learnings for perhaps an individual who has some learning challenges with developing an understanding of print. But the same kinds of things can occur with those littles in our home as we think about ways to make it playful and fun for them to learn these preschool skills, if you will. Shopping being one of those. I just made that connection just because you had that conversation last night at dinner. But it's important for us to ensure that we're engaging those kinds of activities and making that awareness. So based on what we've done and the activities that you're provided, we're going to once again offer you the opportunity. You should have hopefully bookmarked the Play to Read with a Caregiver resource. Just remind you that resource is there, encourage you to find ways to share that with families and use that as a resource as you're developing strategies within your own learning environments. So we're going to go ahead and look at the next slide. In addition to the resources that we have shared already, we're going to share a few more resources because who doesn't like a great resource? So the next resource, probably most of you are familiar with at this point. This is a resource we call the Digital Children's Reading Initiative, also known as DCRI. So when we began to assemble these resources, they're gathered by grade level, pre-kindergarten to grade 5. And the resources are all accessible. They're resources that are at no cost to families. It really does target those skills around the big 5 areas that we know that we focus on. So in order to continue to provide support to North Carolina's youngest readers, the Department of Public Instruction and the Office of Early Learning developed and released Literacy at Home. These digital resources provide literacy support for each grade level, pre-K to grade 5, as we stated, and families and communities can access these resources to support specific literacy skills, from phonemic awareness, fluency, phonics, vocabulary, reading comp, oral language. All of those foundational areas are supported to help us all develop proficient readers. So once again, that is a resource. There's a link to that resource in the chat for you. So hopefully you're able to access that resource, bookmark it. If you're not familiar with it, I generally try to encourage people to get in there and just click around, because there's some great opportunities within that resource. So we're going to once again give you a moment to think about, again, kind of click around in the break and take 3 minutes to engage in conversation about some of those resources that we've shared today, specifically related to print awareness. And we're going to see you back in about 3 minutes, if that's okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. All right, we hope you had an opportunity to kind of think about these resources and how you might share those out with others and use them in your own work. But we also know that we need to provide support to you as you're supporting families with helping build foundations for literacy. And so we try to build out resources that are ready to use and that are, something we provide to you to make your life just a little bit easier. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to drop a link in for a set of slides that are family friendly, that offer you an opportunity. Somebody in one of the breakout sessions that I attended said we do like a family night. And in our family night, we share resources. Well, here's a set of slides that might be useful for you if you do that kind of thing to lessen your lift as you begin to work on creating family-facing resources and materials. Here's some that we'd like to provide to you. It is view only, but we encourage you to share these resources with family members and others that you feel like might be able to benefit. Once you open the link, you can make a copy in your own Google Drive, download a copy to your own files, and then you'll have that as a resource to use in ways in which you feel are appropriate. So hopefully that'll be useful to you.
And it has a lot of videos that we shared today. The ones earlier in the session, those are included in that for family-facing resource as well.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, absolutely. We encourage you to use those as you see fit. All right. As we always do in the Office of Early Learning, we provide an optimistic closure. So today, our optimistic closure will give you time to reflect on, as we leave, a reminder from some friends at Sesame Street about foundational literacy skills and how they can be developed through meaningful and engaging conversations with adults. So let's take a look at the video.
So Mr. Buzz likes to collect words, huh?
I love it! When I discover a new word I've never heard before, I learn what it means, then I add it to the collection of words I have in my head.
Oh, I just love the idea of a word collection. Yeah. It's so, twinkle-tastic.
Twinkle-tastic? What a great word! I've got to know what it means.
Oh, it's just a fairy way of saying that something is really cool.
A new word. Twinkle-tastic. Buzzword! Now it's part of my word collection.
Oh, cool! But how does Mr. Buzzword discover new words?
I just follow my own curiosity.
Curiosity? What does that mean?
Ah, a new word for you. Curiosity is what makes you want to know more about something, just like what you've been doing.
We have?
Sure, you've been asking questions, and that's a great way to follow your curiosity.
Oh, so, asking questions can help you learn new words?
It can help us all. For example, I have a question. I am wondering why you are carrying that drum.
What this? Oh, well, Elmo just likes to play it, see?
What a catchy rhythm!
Rhythm? What does that mean?
Aha! Another question, another new word. Rhythm is a beat that happens in a pattern. Try to clap the rhythm like this.
Oh, I get it. I'm playing the rhythm with my hands.
Yeah, and Elmo is playing the rhythm with his stick thingy.
Ah, but you ever wonder what that stick thingy is called?
No, what is it called, Mr. Buzzword?
Another wonderful question. So here is another wonderful word. It's called a mallet.
Ooh, mallet.
A mallet is a special kind of stick with a rounded end. It makes a sound when you hit a drum.
Oh, yeah. Well, Elmo uses it all the time, but Elmo never knew it was called a mallet.
You see, simply by following your curiosity and asking questions, you have already learned some wonderful musical words.
Like rhythm.
And mallet.
And don't forget, curiosity.
Well, that was pretty twinkle-tastic. All right, you guys, we're going to take one final slide here and we're going to roll out of here and give you another one additional resource. Just a reflection question. If you look at this and you think about how you encourage families to facilitate word collection and foundational literacy skills, what among what we've talked about today might be of importance with you? If you want to take a moment and pop something in the chat, please do. We encourage you to do that. And then we're going to remind you in the next slide about a menu of support. So through Jessica's leadership and the folks who are supporting early literacy, we're developing a menu of support that would be available to you, and you can see the dates there and some of the materials that are already kind of ready and available. So take a look at that menu of support. We're going to drop that link. So once again, you've got additional resources to help you with the work you're trying to achieve. Yeah, take a look at that. There is a menu and you can click on that link and have access to some additional support resources and materials. Again, we wanted to make sure that throughout this 1 hour time together, we could provide you with numerous resources that can help make your job a little more efficient and effective, and certainly engaging families in that process. So we encourage you to continue to do that. And we know that you do. We just thank you that come and partake in our trainings and our videos and our supports that we provide, and want you to use these resources, and hopefully they, they're useful to you. Once again, we just value your time and thank you for being with us this afternoon.